Welcome back to the Manosphere Paradigm, the channel where we learn to level up health, wealth, relationships, and hobbies. Today, I want to get into the infamous interview between Andrew Tate and Piers Morgan. Everyone is talking about it, everyone is dissecting what has been said, the discussion points, all the good stuff. But when it comes to what has been happening and what has been leading up to this interview, I want to just quickly go over that because I think that deserves a mention when it comes to the manosphere as a whole and how we are being looked at when it comes to us advocating for men, having more men's voices heard. We've looked at channels like you call shout out to Fresh and Fit, shout out to Sneeko. These guys are out there working their butts off and educating men and helping them. As many other channels I can name so many within the manosphere that is contributing to men's to positive masculinity. Shout out to Rolo Tomasi and at the Rational Male, where there is so much being poured into from so many different men, so many races, so many walks of life, so many socioeconomic statuses. All different colors and creeds that's coming together, and we are all saying the same thing and voicing the same concerns and calling out the same things in society. And for that, we are being, or at least as a whole, a lot of us is being ostracized, where people do not want to hear and listen to logical conversations or logical arguments, number one. And secondly, channels that build men up, because men, to a certain extent, we've been brought up all these years to be the sims that society needs us to always be the mop up guys when it comes to certain relationships and the things that we have to put up with. So, like I mentioned, a lot of channels that is positively contributing to basically uplift men and educate men and to give them just some insight into the things that they believe that they are seeing, and also affirming those things to each other, to where we all are seeing that we're all going through obviously similar experiences. And especially in a Western country, there's a lot of things that you are going through and everyone can identify with. So against that, when you are red well away, you obviously are going to be encountering your old friends, or you're going to be encountering a lot of men that is still plugged in, that is still so very much invested in the blue pill thinking, and which are still beta men. I mean, if you look at all the discussions that's been held between Destiny, one of the a big YouTuber that's out there, you see other guys like Logan Paul. I mean, he's huge. There's guys, Destiny, I mentioned, Logan Paul. There is, there's this guy called also Hassan Piker. These guys are all, they are distancing themselves. Destiny, to a certain extent, he was open in having open debate with Sneeko. So that's good. But for me, a lot of men is still just plugged in playing games and not building on themselves and not growing, and constantly basically wants to simp and is going to fight for their right to simp. So for me, covering this whole Piers Morgan and Andrew Tate saga, or basically a debate as you would call it, is basically a clash of two worlds that's been boiling and coming, and it's been stirring. It's been stirring for a while, and it finally got to the point where someone like Andrew Tate, I mean, this four times kickboxing world champion, a guy that's used to being in the ring and sparring, they're a guy that's been banned against, that's a guy that's been ostracized by social networks and social media as a whole. But us as men, we do understand where he's coming from. A lot of us, at most of the times, we don't agree with everything that he says, but I think most of us believe with or agree with him 90% of the way, because he has the guts and the balls to get into the ring with mainstream media and to basically fight the good fight in talking about the things that we as men obviously talk to each other about, that is not very politically correct at times, but at the end of the day, it is very, very much based in logic and based in the truth that we experience as men, and how we see life, and how we basically encounter and experience the opposite sex when it comes to relationships and our interactions with them. So this has been a very long intro to this video, and I want to start with this clip, and I want us to go through and react to a 8-minute clip where I believe in this clip, Andrew Tate, one of the things that we have lost as men, we've lost that ability to be able to openly debate with each other and have discussion with each other where we can disagree with each other, but at the end of the day, we can still maintain respect. We do not go below the belt, and we understand to make sure that we basically keep that respect level toward each other. Because obviously, with men, there's um, that possibility for violence, because we as men understand when another man is disrespectful to you, he's basically going to be upfront about it. And if he is passive aggressive about it, if you are a guy that knows, you are not scared to basically confront someone, it's going to make for a very heated kind of exchange. You can be stoic about it, but if someone disrespects you or goes to the next level of just being physical, then you do have to put them in their place. You can either walk away, or you can stand your ground and put them in their place if the situation calls for it. I've had an experience with a close friend. We've had a discussion on a topic. It got a bit heated, and we had to pull ourselves away in basically going back to retreating to our corners and cooling down, and we could come back to each other and have a discussion and basically call a truce to an extent, but basically just touch reconnecting and saying, you know what, it got a bit out of hand. But I do respect you, and I understand, and I know that you do respect me as well. And next time, let's have a beer, let's have a whiskey, have a discussion, and just keep having robust debate, because that is what men do. We challenge each other, but at the end of the day, we can walk away and we can still be friends. We do not need to stop being friends with someone because you've had a disagreement. You can have that robust debate, and this is what Andrew Tate is showing us. You can have debates with men that you do believe is not on the same wavelength with you. It is healthy to do that. You obviously don't want to continuously surround yourself with these men, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you are obviously standing your ground in the things that you believe, because you obviously you firmly believe in those things. So for me, it was a good interview to show and also just basically expose how a lot of men debate in the way they basically will be disrespectful in trying to shame a person. And in Piers Morgan's case, he tried very hard to basically paint Andrew into a corner and to connect him to certain things which we call, and we all understand, is being jamming, where you put a negative connotation. You kind of like draw a comparison between what this person has said or maybe what they've done, and you connect that to something very bad and extremely negative, and you jam the two together, and somehow you use that type of argument to have the other person basically back down and say, you know what, I don't want to be associated to that, and I'm actually going to just concede on this point. So one of the things that I definitely enjoyed about this interview is Andrew Tate standing his ground, and Piers Morgan basically exposing himself for being emotional, not discussing and going through a topic from a lot and approaching a topic from a logical standpoint, but just basically going completely into his emotion, not giving Andrew a chance. But without further ado, let me not tell you what the video is about. Let's have a look for ourselves.
Let me talk to you about Alex. Let me talk to you about Alex Jones, right? Who I have a bit of history with. He tried to get me deported from the United States.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. What is your view of Alex Jones?
I think that Alex Jones is a sovereign individual who, very much like the rabid left, deserves a chance to speak on his points of view. I think that the truth on issues is usually somewhere in the middle between two extremes. And
you think Sandy Hook was staged?
I don't know anything about Sandy Hook.
Really? You know he's just been sued by...
So for me, the first thing is that he's drawing comparison with a guy called Alex Jones. Now, Alex Jones is a very animated character. I've watched his podcast in the past. A lot of things at times sounds completely loony at times, but a lot of things that he's mentioned made sense. He's provided certain facts when it comes to the things that he speaks about. I mean, one of those facts are one of the big controversial subjects is still How many years later is 9/11? If you look at the photos for the Pentagon, the size of the hole is this big, that way, that big, or let me, that way. So the plane is, the hole in the Pentagon wall was that size, but the actual plane specs of what they said crashed into that hole is smaller than the actual hole. And the plane itself disintegrated or was burnt up. Alloy, by the way, was burnt up by the fire. But when you looked at the photos back then, or you can go online, you can see there's wooden desks and chairs that's in the hole. As something hit the hole, you'll see wooden chairs and desks. The plane is gone because of the heat of the fire, and the guys could walk around with pieces of the plane, but you'll see wooden chairs and tables that's still there. Last time I checked, wood burns way lower temperature compared to alloy in melting and smelting away. But nonetheless, that was just an example. When it comes to Alex Jones, there's so many. But silencing someone because you don't like what they have to say, that is one of the weakest things we have reduced ourselves to as a society, where we are so afraid to listen to the other side. We're so invested to our own thing that we believe, and the narrative that we are following, that we will refuse to listen to facts if it does not align with the way we believe something is supposed to be, and we believe and tell people how they should think. That is what we've reduced ourselves to as bots, robots that walks around taking on other people's narratives. Thomas Sowell says it so well. Do not be fooled by other people's narratives and subscribe and ascribe to other people's narrative that is prepackaged for you. Make up your own mind, check out the facts, and that is what I liked about Alex Jones. But let's get back into what Piers Morgan and the comparison that he's trying to do, because he's referred to Sandy Hook or some type of shooting or whatever it is. Obviously, it's tragic, but him trying to jam and to put Andrew Tate next to some on a horrific type of event because he mentioned the name of Alex Jones. Alex Jones had something to say about the event, and he gave a reasonings for what he believes, and people are so offended by it. He is now trying to draw this comparison that's got nothing to do with Andrew Tate, but because you know someone that Piers Morgan and mainstream media don't agree with, now you are bad. It's just a stupid comparison to make.
By the families for millions and millions.
I have no idea.
You don't know anything about it?
No.
So why would you support someone in public when you know nothing about the most infamous
When
thing
have I
attached to
supported
it?
him in public?
You have supported him in public.
I've been on his podcast.
Yeah, but you said nice things about him.
I say nice things about lots of people.
What do you think of Alex Jones?
I said nice things about you, Piers.
That's fine.
so
you should. I'm a nice person.
So to sit and say that I've been on a podcast and I say nice things about
But
you,
you said
you
support his right to speak about things like Sandy Hook.
I don't know Sandy Hook. I don't know. And
You know what it was?
It was a mass shooting
Of school children.
Okay, but to sit and it's actually no. Let's stop for a second. Please don't interrupt me. Here's why I know why you're good at your job. First, you interrupt people a lot, which is good. It's a good skill,
Actually,
and then there you go. Prove me right.
But here's exactly
and the timing's good.
Here's exactly what I do. I only interrupt people like you when you either refuse to answer the question or answer a completely different one.
Sure.
And I want to remind you of what the question was.
Fair.
Or when you misquote me back, which you've done repeatedly through the interview, where you say, "You see, Piers, you agree with me," and the viewer who's been watching will go, "No, he didn't."
Cool. No problem.
So again, Morgan is assuming that his audience is idiots and people cannot see through his tactics that he's deploying in this interview when it comes to him talking to Andrew Tate. If you check out the entire, give the link to the entire interview and you can go check it out for yourself. I'll put it into this link in the description directly from Pierce's channel. And you guys can check out the entire interview. He constantly interrupts Andrew. Whenever he asks a question, Andrew is in the process of answering the question. And he's basically interrupting because the question and the answering is it's not coming through or being said to him or in a way that sounds appealing to what he believes is going to be something that's going to go viral, so that he knows he'll get the clicks and the likes on his video and the eyeballs on this video and interview. So that whole approach of believing people are stupid, number one, is audience. And then secondly, misquoting and basically completely jamming things that does not make any sense, and also then saying to Andrew, if you are associating with certain people, then you basically believe what those that people has said, certain views that person has had. You do not know each and everything someone has said in today's day and age. People are constantly online. People have different people are individuals that make up their mind for themselves, and they will have beliefs and certain things that they've said. You cannot go and do a complete history search on what someone has said before you align and have a discussion. That's why meeting new people, getting to learn what they're about, if it is something that you agree with or if it's something that you don't agree with. That's the whole that is the whole dynamic of getting to know someone. And if someone is talking to you in a certain way that you do not like and you want to remove yourself from the situation, then so be it.
The other thing you do is you try and set these traps like now. So you're saying
What's the trap you think I'm setting?
You're saying that I agree with every single point of view a man has.
I literally didn't say that.
You're saying, well, you support Alex Jones.
Why would you misquote me?
Because you're saying you support Alex Jones and you said you've been on his podcast and he said this. I don't know
what do you think of Alex Jones?
I don't know everything he said.
What do you think of him?
I think on his podcast he was cordial. I think he was professional on his podcast. I've also done podcasts with rabid leftists and people who openly hate me.
Look at the body language. Look at the body language between these two. Look at Andrew. He's composed, he's calm, he's stoic. He's sitting there, he's giving his opinion, or at least giving his feedback on what has been asked. He's giving his view. And you see Piers Morgan doing this. Up. All over on his seat. All over. He doesn't know which angle to come at Andrew Tate from. He is completely off his center. And that is surely not somewhere you want to be when it comes to someone like Andrew Tate, who is someone that's used to the ring, used to sparring, and someone that's very good at chess, understanding the mental type of gymnastics people jump through in trying to justify certain things, and using Piers's tactics against him because he knows exactly what he's trying to do. So you can definitely see a contrast between the two characters as to someone that is stoic and calm, that is collected and collects his thoughts, understands and listens to comprehend so that they can give an answer, compared to someone that's trying to create a viral moment so that they can have clicks and basically cloud chase to a certain extent of Andrew's name. He has no interest in debating a point and basically having a discussion on that point and seeing where both lie about it, or at least where their point of views are about a specific point. It's all about basically throwing in all the buzzwords and getting that one clickbait moment that they can clip and they can put on the internet to say, you know what, see, that's what he's all about. He is a misogynist. He constantly uses that word. If you check out the full interview, he uses that word. That is what, if you say that and it is anti-woman, then that's misogyny. That is not the meaning of the word misogyny. So many people use misogyny, the word, when their feelings is hurt or you say something negative about women, but what you are saying is not negative in a malice way, but it is negative based on the information that you are sharing. It is an empirical fact that you are presenting, whatever that fact may be, and if it paints women in a bad light, now you are being called, that's a misogynistic thing to say. Misogyny is the hatred towards women, and I don't believe that Andrew is a guy that hates women. He has women in his life. I mean, I don't hate women. I have a wife. So the fact that you say something that people don't agree, they'll use that word and throw that word around as misogynistic to kind of shame you, for you to now feel, you know what, I don't want to be viewed that way, and I don't want that word to be attached to me, so I'm going to keep quiet now. That tactic is no longer working because men are waking up. Why? Because of the manosphere. Because men are understanding, you know what, I cannot just sit down and listen to what people's got to say. When I hear what they're saying is completely BS, when what they are saying is completely based in emotion, where you know better, and at times you've kept your mouth. Now you have to gauge your environment. You have to gauge and understand what battles to fight. But a lot of us and a lot of men are standing up and waking up to their value, and it is coming through in society. These interviews only strengthen that discussion even more and opens up the discussion. And to a certain extent, guys like Piers and the beta approach believe that they are scoring points and brownie points when they go the route of wanting to pander to women. And we all understand that that is not the way to go, but they will be patted on their head and they will be rewarded with sympathy, coochie, um, based on what they can offer the woman. It's a long discussion. It's a very extensive talk when we go into that as well. I will cover that in future videos. But to get back to the video, let us end and see how far we go.
Is it wrong?
I do a podcast circuit.
Okay.
So, and I don't know everything he's ever said.
When somebody like
and I don't know what, so I don't know what you're trying to get here because I did a podcast.
If you let me get a word in edgeways, I'll tell you.
It's a lame trick.
If you let me get a word in, I will tell you.
Let's go.
So every time he interrupts Andrew, then he puts down this this argument that if I can get a word in. But when he asks Andrew to answer a question, or asks him a question and he's answering the question, he's interrupting and not giving him a word and listening to him and giving him a hearing. It's classic projection. And if you're in a debate, you're talking about and debating an issue or some discussion, political discussion, whatever, you need to be cognizant of the different tactics that people employ. And Andrew Tate definitely calls Piers Morgan out for his BS, and he does it to his face, not behind his back, to his face. And that's why you saw him fidgeting and jumping all around on that chair.
Alex Jones said that Sandy Hook didn't happen. It was staged by actors.
Okay.
This compounded the appalling grief of the families of those poor 20 children who were gunned to pieces by a lunatic with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. They were already grief-stricken beyond belief, and this guy poured petrol onto that grief quite deliberately to make a huge amount of money from his InfoWars fake.
Now, what he's saying is obviously was probably obviously very traumatic towards those families. But I mean, this is not so. He's putting Andrew in the painting him in this light as though the certain pundits or certain people in media are the ones that's benefiting from people's deaths, and because that's basically what he's insinuating. But if you look at what the news media that's out there today, you have all these different Eminem. You know what is the when it comes to the news channel that is extremely left. These guys will be first on the scene and they will get the facts wrong. And then afterwards, when what they have said is completely incorrect, they will not come out to correct it unless it's had massive blowback. So him creating this picture that only their side is the side that's very concerned with people's and families' grief and want to lessen that grief, it's a complete BS, because media is out to profit and to throw out as much as they can when it comes to whatever tragic situation happens, especially when it contributes to the narrative that they are pushing through their channel on a daily basis.
Fake news bullshit. And as a result, a lot of the families have now sued him and they've won, and he's going to have to pay back tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars in damages to these families. And quite right, it won't do anything about the pain he caused them. Some of them actually had people turn up outside their houses with guns because Alex Jones had told them that these parents were making it all up. They were all staged actors. It was all run by the government. So I simply say to you, now I've told you that, what is your view of Alex Jones?
I don't see why any of that has to do with me.
Exactly.
It's very interesting. I've done the guy's podcast. I know him well. He was professional and courteous to me. When I meet somebody and they show me respect, I show them back.
You treat someone and you give the energy back that you are getting. If someone is treating with respect and they are courteous, then you treat them the same. And you have a discussion, whatever you're talking about, and you go through that experience in the interaction. And if it is positive, and you have a good, and you obviously have there's a good vibe about it, you will have a positive outlook or a positive opinion about that person. But if you do not know about what else they did in 19 whatever and said wherever on whatever platform, you cannot be checking each and every. Oh, I can't talk to you. Cool. Let me go check out your your Twitter account and check if there's anything on there or anything on Facebook or IG, whatever. That is so stupid. It makes no sense.
Respect. That's what I do, as I did with you.
You respect him?
If somebody shows me respect, I show them respect.
He's looking for that viral moment, fishing for that viral
Back.
moment.
So if Adolf Hitler showed you respect, you'd respect him back.
That's a stupid question, Piers.
It's not. It's a logical extension of your argument.
No, if in 1931 I was walking through Germany and a man come up to me and said, sorry for bumping into you, I'd say, sorry, no problem, mate.
Exactly.
I'd show respect back. I don't know, what are you trying to say? That I sanction the Holocaust?
You literally just said if somebody respects you, you respect them back.
I say if somebody shows me respect, I show respect back. That's a good way to go through life.
Exactly. Whoever it is.
If somebody shows me respect and is courteous to me, I'm courteous back.
How can you respect somebody who caused such misery and pain to Sandy?
I have no idea.
Again, trying to circle back the wagon and basically pull him back again to such grief and pain. And how can you be friends? If you meet someone, you do not know that person's history unless you were made aware of it. So when you are dealing with that person and you're interacting, you will then obviously go through it in good faith to get to know the person. Obviously, if you're going onto a platform and you're meeting people, you check out what they're about. But if you are basically going genuinely in there, trying to have an open discussion about whatever's been put on the table, that is a good way to go about it, believing the best in people, isn't it?
Idea the specifics of the thing you're discussing. I don't understand any of it.
Well,
I don't know anything about it. You've told me your version of events.
When did you go on the podcast?
I was on the podcast about four times in the last 4 years. I did one relatively recently.
So four times you went on Alex Jones's podcast.
Correct.
Promoting him, helping him make money.
I don't think it was promoting and helping him because...
Well, it's his podcast.
Well, yeah, but I've been...
He's been spending, how long is he spending now talking to Andrew about some guy that he went on a podcast with? He is constantly trying to connect Andrew to people that the media is painted in a certain light based on what they've said. But whatever the connection is or the connotation that's been added by the media to that person's name, he wants to take that entire basket and then, here you go, Andrew. This is on you. Nothing about what Andrew believes, what does he think about A, B, and C, and talk about certain the things that he has discussed in the past. No, he's mentioned he's mentioned Hitler. In a space of 30 seconds, he's mentioned Hitler. He's mentioned talking about all this appalling things and all this heartache and blah, blah, blah. Appeal to emotion. Another logical fallacy. This guy's all over the place. This guy, I don't know if he's irritating you as much as he's irritating me. But if this is how a grown man, I believe most likely probably in his 50s, is acting and having a conversation with another man,
been on the podcasts of people who absolutely hate me. I've been on liberal left-wing podcasts. I've been on feminist
That's
podcasts.
Fine.
And no, you just sat here saying I would like you to agree, perhaps we can agree on this point, that I'm not a feminist. I go on feminist podcasts. I do a podcast circuit.
You're not a feminist?
No, I don't know.
What do you think a feminist is?
Well, let's not change subject here.
Exactly.
Stay on the subject.
You mentioned feminism.
Completely, but you're trying to get away from the point, because what you did is you're trying to say, because I did a podcast, I sanction all of this person's views. And I'm saying I do 5 podcasts a week. I do 5 podcasts a week, and I don't sanction 100% the views of any other person on the planet, because I'm an individual and he has an individual views, as do you. So I don't know why you're trying to come at me with what.
That's how you learn. You meet people, you talk to different people. Again, you go into it with good faith. And if the person shows you something else or is negative towards you, then you obviously treat it accordingly. But to be walking through life constantly checking out what people have said before you talk to them, how the hell is that even possible to walk through life and go through life in being able to interact with people if you're so scared about what they said in the past, and if it's going to make you look bad if you do have a public chat to them on some podcast or platform?
One of his views and pretend that's something to do with
it's
me.
a pretty big view.
No, but it's a lame trick, Piers, and you're better than this. So let's move on.
Would you?
It's lame, and let's move on.
Putin had a podcast, would you go on it?
Sure.
You would? Great. Okay, let me know what you're talking about.
If Vladimir Putin had a podcast, I'd go on it. If Joe Biden had a podcast, I'd go on it. If a feminist has a podcast, I'll go on it. If Piers Morgan has a podcast, I'll go on it. If Alex Jones, I don't see the point you're making. There's no point here. You're digging, but there's nothing to find.
Well, I'm not. I'm taking your position that if somebody shows you respect them.
I think that
I'm saying there are lots of people in the world I do not respect. If Vladimir Putin showed me respect, I would not respect him.
that's your opinion.
Yeah. If someone shows you don't like the person, but he shows you respect, and I'm not going to respect him because I've seen and heard this, that about you, but I've not taken the time out to get to know the person. That's a very stupid way to go about it when you are basing all your entire belief about someone based on what you heard on the media. If you are seeing that person face to face and you have time to spend time with them and have a discussion with them, ask them certain questions, get to know them better, and they show you respect, and you say, no, sorry, because what I've heard about you, I can't respect you. That is a very immature and stupid way for a grown man to act and go about when it comes to meeting people. I doubt that he has this level or this type of standard when he goes to his swanky parties and involve himself and frequent with whatever less celebrities and high ranking or high level type of parties and things that he gets involved. I doubt he has all this level of scrutiny when it comes to scrutinizing people in the circles that he moves in. I think he's full of it.
Opinion, but
No, it's my view. What's
okay,
your
that's
view?
your view. Well,
Your view is you would.
You're sitting here, Piers, saying that I'm on uncensored show, and in your intro you said that it's important that we don't have echo chambers and we have varying
Correct.
and that we have varying opinions.
Correct.
But then you're saying the people you don't like, you wouldn't go on their podcast.
Exactly.
No.
So you are a hypocrite.
No.
Yes.
I will
No.
go on
Cognitive
anybody's
dissonance.
podcast
I
and
don't think you
discuss any
understand.
point.
I don't think you understand what censorship means, do you? Like a lot of words we've had problems with today.
You're just saying
What do you
saying,
think censorship means?
No, but the point I'm trying to make here.
Hang
Piers,
on. What do you think censorship means?
Don't hide from the fact that you're saying you will only do podcasts with people you like.
Why do you think
Yeah.
that's censorship?
No, that's your prerogative. My prerogative is
What does it do with censorship?
I'll discuss opinions with anybody, and I've done hard left wing. Why are you not asking me about the podcast I've done for the people who are hard liberal
By the
left
way,
wing?
I don't care whether they're left or right.
Okay.
Extreme.
That's bull. That is bull. He has very strong opinions when it comes to the left and the right at times, and when it suits his narrative, when it comes to him obviously having very robust debates on his show. I mean, I remember him being on some British show back some time back. I can't remember. I haven't been paying that much attention, but I know he walked away from it or he was fired from it because of the way he goes about in his interviews. And I've checked some of them out. At times he did sound fair. At other times he sound completely all over the place and getting into his emotion. And I believe this is one of those kind of interviews where he think he is relevant and he's clutching onto someone like Andrew Tate. Why? Because of the clickbait that it will bring when you type in the word or the name Andrew Tate into your description. I do it. So at the end of the day, I mean, someone like this and the way he's going about it and arguing and basically reasoning as a grown-ass man. I'd say it.
To me, all nuts, right?
Then we agree.
Yes.
So perfect.
Good.
Next subject.
All right. Here's my next subject. It was very.
He looks like a complete fool after that exchange because at the end of it, he comes to no point. There's no solid, coherent type of thought or discussion. It's been everything that he's been doing is reacting. Every time Tate is saying something, he's giving a point. He's explaining himself. He jumps in. Feminism. You said feminism. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about not listening to comprehend. And I am very. I don't know how this guy got this far in his career when it comes to having a show when he is so triggered and so someone that basically interrupts the guest. You've invited the guest to ask him questions, and when the person is asking his questions, it's not about, you can clearly see it's not about getting to know what the person is about and understand what their point of views are. It's all about creating a narrative that's going to be able to get your show to pander to a certain demographic, to society as a whole, and you can come out smelling like roses. Unfortunately, the way you would, like I said earlier, he believes his audience are all bots and they are all stupid people, and he thinks that because he says something and he says it a certain way, he thinks he's cunning. But the way Andrew Tate is conducting himself, the way he is conducting himself, says a lot about the two total opposites in the way you conduct yourself as a man. So people, they will definitely make up their own mind. And I've seen a lot of blowback from against this interview that is done. He's painted it in a certain manner that he came out as the guy that was all over Andrew Tate. I mean, I remember him releasing a small clip of it, and then people calling him out on it with all the jump cuts that happened all over the place. And he came up with the full interview that made him look even worse. So let's finish off this video, and let's see how. As you can see, look at Andrew's face. Piers on the right, he's like, what am I gonna give him, hit him with next? I have nothing, but okay, I'm gonna load the magazine and fire off another couple of rounds. And you look at Andrew, relaxed, thinking to himself, what's next? Come on, I'm ready for it.
Serious case here.
Jesus. And before you move on, sorry, Piers, but before you move on, I do find it kind of disingenuous. And I know we're on a show, and I don't have a personal problem with you, but it is kind of disingenuous to try and sit here and lump me in with some school shooting. That's nothing to do with me.
Jamming, like I said earlier, jamming is it's a very underhanded, and it's a trick they use, and they think they slick when they do use it. But you can see right through it. You are taking someone and trying to push them into a corner by connecting a negative word or a negative person or whatever. You're trying to connect that to them, and because it's connected to them, they will now panic and try to distance themselves from it. And that is where you will have a person start complying with you more, because they want to move away from that negative connotation. But one thing I like about Andrew is he's cool, he's calm, he points it out, and basically defends himself and distances himself from it in the correct manner, and basically exposes Piers Morgan tactics, which is underhanded and reeks of murder.
Has nothing to do with me. On any level.
Let me respond.
On any level.
Let me explain. Like you just said, you've been on this podcast 4 times.
In 4 years.
Since he said the whole thing was staged.
I don't know when he
said. And I think the fact that a smart guy like you wants me to believe you had no idea that Alex Jones, who's been in the news now for the last 2 years for being sued by these families for the most heinous thing imaginable of pouring petrol onto their grief by claiming that shooting was staged. The fact that you're pretending you didn't know about any of that.
It's not about pretending.
And you've been on his podcast 4 times, supporting him and making him money. So damn right I'm going to call you out on it.
When I do a podcast, if you think I spend time analyzing the point of view of that person and everything they've ever said for years beforehand,
years, it was minutes in most cases.
Years and years.
When did you last go on his? When did you last go on his podcast?
You trying to lump me in and attack me for a person whose podcast I do having a view is absolutely childish. Because I've done a bunch of podcasts.
A grown-ass man that makes himself look out like an idiot.
I've done a bunch of podcasts with people who are advocating for things that I do not agree with on every single level. In fact, most of my podcasts are me disagreeing with people. So it's completely crazy that you're trying to lump me in with that. That's cheap. That's cheap.
You are completely misconstruing the point of what I'm saying. I think deliberately.
No, what you're trying is a cheap trick. And I'm just making it clear to the audience.
I'm just
straightforward, in your face. There's no going around the bush, beating around the bush. This is a cheap trick. You know what you're doing, and it's childish. That's why it's the top G. Top G.
Curious where your moral line is.
It's a cheap trick.
Where's your moral line?
I disagree with the points of view with the majority of the people I do podcasts with. So it's a very cheap trick you're trying here. So
when people invent... Let me talk to you about Alex.
I mean, guys, if you look at that discussion, you think you're listening to Andrew Tate talking to a 21-year-old that has no life experience and has swallowed and consumed all the indoctrination that they can stomach to regurgitate everything that the Matrix has to offer. This is ridiculous for a grown-ass man like Piers Morgan to think this way. And the type of underhanded interview tricks that he uses to be able to paint someone in a bad light. His aim is not to get to the bottom of something and to understand what the person's thoughts is. All he cares about is creating clickbait and jamming, creating this and using the technique of jamming and trying to attach Andrew to some person or something because Andrew spoke to the person. You went onto the podcast. Now, obviously, if you do connect with certain people, you will do a decent research to understand what they're about. But I believe when it comes to Alex Jones and what I've also seen in the past, there's a lot of things that he says that makes sense, and sometimes things that doesn't make sense. But you know what? I will listen to what they've got to say, and if there's facts that can be presented, that can be checked and verified, I mean, surely then you should do the due diligence to go check it out and see if what he's saying is correct. So for me, I thought it's a good video just to show you that contrast and how the masculine wars, I would say the man wars, has been brewing. It's been brewing. You've had the simps fighting the alpha guys that's wanting to push themselves, wanting to work on and get through and push themselves in doing self development, learning about game, getting better with their money, understanding the muscles, game, and frame, and basically also understanding there's certain things that you just have to accept. Those are the guys that are winning, and those are the guys that's pushing themselves more and more into that small percentages guy that's successful in certain things. And the more you challenge yourself and push yourself and unplug, most importantly, unplug from other people's narratives and views and make up your mind for yourself. That is one of the big things that we advocate for and we encourage men to do, is to stop following the crowd. You make decisions based on what a logical and sound argument, and obviously based on facts over feelings. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I wanted to just have this discussion so that we can clearly see what is going on, what has transpired, how we got here, and at the end of the day, you can make up your mind for yourself to say, you know what, am I someone that's wanting to be someone that is misunderstood at times, but you know what, I stand on my square, I stand on what I believe in, and I won't waver? Or will you be someone that is completely the mindset of, you know what, I want to pander, I want to create clickbait, and I do not care about men, all I want to do is make money? It's up to you. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be creating some more content and when it comes to Andrew Tate, because why? He opens up a lot of discussion points that we as men can talk about. We can basically have back and forths on, and at the end of the day, we can encourage each other and build each other so that we can be better men for society. A lot of times, the better men is always put in this framework of we need to be better for women in society, and there's only accountability on the one end. But the Manosphere, we accountable, we push accountability on both ends, and we will definitely highlight if there is certain things that females need to also better in and better themselves in to be able to be the ones that gets a relationship from a man that's worth his salt and has preferences and has standards. And either you with it or you not. We ain't wavering, we ain't budging, and we're not bending for anyone. And we're going to stand strong like the top G and tell the world we are men, and we're going to be standing together and standing strong and being the men that our families and wives and society needs us to be. It's a mouthful, but you know what? That's what we need, and that's what we're pushing for in the Manosphere. I'll check you guys in the next vid. See you. I'm out.